S.P.J's First Amendment Award recognizes individuals and groups for extraordinarily strong efforts to preserve and strengthen the First Amendment. This year's honoree is the Human Rights Defense Center. They began in 1990 as Prisoners' Legal News, which published a 10-page newsletter produced from a Washington State prison cell. From its very first issue, it focused on the constitutional rights of prisoners nationwide, highlighting prison and jail-related litigation efforts, particularly within First Amendment context. The Human Rights Defense Center has continued to grow in size and scope. In addition to its 64-page monthly magazine with a subscriber base of 7,000, most of whom are incarcerated, HRDC distributes self-help books to prisoners and pursues cutting-edge litigation concerning First Amendment rights centered on censorship by prisons and jail staff. The Human Rights Defense Center has been successful in litigation with the Department of Corrections in many states and also has challenged censorship policies in numerous local facilities. In terms of ensuring government transparency and the right of the press and public to obtain public records from government agencies and officials, they have filed Freedom of Information Act suits against public and private groups. Paul Wright is here to accept the award for the Human Rights Defense Center. Congratulations.
I'm very proud to accept this great honor from the Society of Professional Journalists. And when I started the magazine in 1990 while I was in prison in Washington State, our first 3 issues were censored by the Washington Department of Corrections. And eventually we were preparing to file a lawsuit to challenge that censorship, and the Washington Department of Corrections backed down. And the warden of the prison I was at the time told me there was no need to censor prison legal news because we would find no support and the magazine wouldn't last more than 6 months. Well, that was 23 years and 276 issues ago. So we've kind of stuck around and we've grown. And since then we found that we've been censored by prisons across the country and a lot of jails, and we've had to go to court numerous times to defend our pretty fundamental right as a magazine publisher and distributor just to ensure that our readers can actually get the magazine. And as I stand here today, 9 prison systems are under prison legal news consent decrees, injunctions, or both. Some of them we've had to sue multiple times. And all in all, but for our efforts, probably around 400,000 prisoners are receiving things in the mail they otherwise would not be receiving but for our efforts. And one of the things we've also filed suit on is our ability as a publisher to pay prisoners for their articles that they submit to prison legal news. Needless to say, the Huffington Post did not support that effort, but we believe writers should be paid for their work. We've done a lot of public records litigation as well. We believe that the reality is that prisons and jails are among the least transparent of American institutions. Today, I'd say the people in this room probably know more about what's going on with the CIA and the NSA than you do about the jails that's probably within a couple miles of your homes or your business offices. And we think that's kind of a problem that's actually gotten worse as we've seen even more governmental secrecy at all levels. And this is especially bad when you think about the 2.5 million people that are locked in government-run cages on any given day in America, and with very little oversight, very little accountability, and virtually no transparency. Over the years, the Society of Professional Journalists has supported prison legal news in our First Amendment and our public records cases through amicus briefs and other support over the years, which we're very proud of. And I have to say that someday I hope to live in a country where the government respects a free and independent press and our ability to reach all American citizens, including those who happen to be in prisons and jails. For now, we have to go to court to fight for such basic rights as the ability to send prisoners books and magazines. And as we sit here in 2013, we're actually fighting for the right to send prisoners that most 15th century of artifacts, a letter. A lot of jails have enacted postcard policies. We're the first ones to successfully challenge jail postcard policy, which limited prisoners to only being able to receive what would fit on a postcard. Today, as I was preparing my presentation, I got notice that the defendants, the Columbia County Jail, filed a notice of appeal. So even after we won a trial, they're ready to fight even harder to restrict prisoners to just what can fit on a postcard. And as we think about Martin Luther King and his letter from the Birmingham jail, a postcard from the Birmingham jail just doesn't have that same cachet. So one of the things I'd like to say is I'd also like to thank my fellow journalists around the country who have supported Prison Legal News and the Human Rights Defense Center and our public records and our First Amendment censorship efforts around the country through editorials, through their news coverage of our litigation. The list is far too long for me to list here given the limited time, but everything is listed on our website at prisonlegalnews.org. Since David Boardman from the Seattle Times is here, I'll have to give a special shout out to the Seattle Times that for their editorial support over the years for a lot of our First Amendment censorship and the positive coverage and support they've given to the First Amendment in our efforts in Washington State in particular, and also Allied Media that submitted a lot of amicus briefs on our behalf. So anyways, the list is long, and I think that one of the big things is that given a chance, the government really doesn't like critical coverage from the media, and that's our job, is to keep doing it, even if they don't like it. Thank you very much.